On the stand, he described how the Free State Estina dairy project was used to launder over 800 million rand. The operation was used to move provincial government money between at least 17 local and international bank accounts linked to the Gupta family. Paul Holden joins us now to unpack the story. Paul, good morning. Thanks once again for your time this morning. I mean, at the heart of it, this is really a heartbreaking story. This project, which was meant to benefit disadvantaged farmers through the Estina dairy farm project, essentially what it actually was a vehicle to launder money using taxpayers' money to do so for the benefit of one family.
I think that's correct. I mean, it really is a pretty awful story when you look at it from any perspective. You know, in the end, the state put in 280 million rand that was paid in by the Free State government. And of that, we can track maybe at the most 20 million rand that was spent actually on setting up a dairy farm. And there was a total disregard for the entire procurement process within the Free State government, but there was a total disregard for the local community, who were, very vocally and very loudly promised that this was going to be the project that was going to transform their lives. And you had people making very profound personal decisions about what assets they were going to keep, whether they're going to keep their own cows or not, and they were cheated effectively. And of that amount that was actually spent on the Free State dairy farm, most of that was spent on staff salaries, and the person who led the farm, the person who actually ran the farm itself, was a Gupta associate who had absolutely no farming experience, who basically ran it into the ground. I don't think there was really any meaningful attempt to properly run a dairy farm or uplift the community at all.
I mean, I remember covering the story when the dairy farm was first sort of announced and launched, that there would be this incredible investment into the community, an opportunity for dairy farmers to get up and running with the support of government.
Absolutely. And it seems to me like there was never really ever going to be that promise was ever going to be fulfilled. What we know now is that the entire project was conceived and executed and run as a Gupta enterprise project. Yeah. And the company that was awarded that tender, the Estina, one of the things that became really clear in the work that I was doing and looking into the various Gupta enterprise money laundering schemes is that a year prior to the whole Estina project taking place, Estina was being used as a general purpose criminal vehicle by the Gupta family to launder funds. I don't think there was ever any real desire to deliver on this project or uplift the community at all.
So Paul, I want to try and just unpack some of the testimony that you gave at the state capture inquiry. I mean, it's incredibly intricate to try and keep track of the flow of the money through the various bank accounts. I believe 17 local and international bank accounts in total, used for this thing that you called, what did you call it, round tripping?
Round tripping and loan back, yeah. So effectively what you have is the origin of the round tripping. There's sort of two reasons why somebody would do that. The first is to make it very hard for investigators to understand how the money has flowed. And the second reason, and probably the most profound reason, is that when Estina entered into its contract with the Free State government, they said, Free State government, you put in 250 million or 280 million, and we'll put in 220 million as our own investment. That was the deal that was made. There was never any intention to invest that money. So what had to be done was a complicated money laundering scheme where the money moved out of the Estina account and then in a circle, effectively through a whole range of other accounts, and then came back into the Estina account to make it look like there was an independent flow of funds, to make it look like there was investment in the account. And that's where the figure of 880 million rand comes from, is you have an original 280 million rand paid by the Free State government that is just being sent in circles, round and round and round and round, so that it looks like there's investment into the account, and it makes it hard for people like the asset forfeiture unit to unpack it.
Yeah. Paul, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but you also testified that there was this ruse, as you've just described, to make it seem like there was additional money being invested into the Free State Dairy Farm project, some 600 million rand, but that money as well was from the Free State government's coffers.
That's correct. I mean, what we have effectively is the money got paid in by the Free State government, and then the Estina would sort of do a loop transfer of the funds around various different accounts. Sometimes quite complicated, sometimes quite simple. Sometimes they'd put it into a fixed deposit account and then open up a loan account, and the loan account would pay another loan account, and then it would come back into the Estina account. But all of that money is from the Free State government. All of that 800 million rand that went in a circle, all that was originally derived and came from the money that came from the Free State government, the 280 million rand.
Yeah.
So there was never any investment in the project by the Gupta enterprise, by Estina. It was all Free State government money. And the thing that was really shocking to me, what I didn't even realize until I got to the commission. I was working with the investigators there, and there were two transfers that I couldn't identify the source of them. They had a slightly strange reference in the bank statements, and it led to a bit of an investigation at the commission. And it turns out that an additional 10 million rand that came into the account, which I thought may have been an investment, actually derived from a VAT fraud that Estina was pulling off. So there's another 10 million rand that was stolen from the public.
So Paul, you've said in your testimony on the stand as well that it was very difficult. It would have been very difficult for the flow of money to be tracked. That's what made the scheme so successful in many ways. But I mean, if 600 million rand is coming from the Free State government's coffers, surely as the person who's in charge of handling the province's money, I would know where that money is going. And surely as the Estina dairy farm, there would have to be checks and balances as well. If money is being paid into the account, we need to account for how that money is being used.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. I mean, I think that becomes very clear when you look at the way the entire dairy project was initiated and run and concluded, was that there was zero accountability at any of the steps. And there was zero attempt to actually meaningfully check what the project was doing.
And was that key? What was that key to the scheme? The fact that the Free State government itself was not bent on any accountability?
I think that's correct. I mean, what we have a situation, I mean, a good example of this is that, by 2014, mid-2014, you have a situation where Estina is actually formally not allowed to be part of the project anymore. They've been told your contract is cancelled. And yet they still get paid over 100 million rand over the course of another 2 years for no good reason whatsoever, based on a totally ludicrous and insane set of invoices that they sent to the Free State government that nobody bothered to check. I think you have a total and utter failure of accountability at pretty much every level here.
I mean, on the face of it, do you reckon it should be easy to make arrests, at least insofar as it relates to the failed putting it lightly, Estina dairy farm project? Given the evidence that you have uncovered, should it be easy enough to pinpoint who the people are who need to be arrested?
I think it's pretty clear who the key players were, both within sort of the Free State government, but also within the whole Gupta enterprise. So I think identifying the parties who are involved is quite straightforward. But I will say that it is always, I think, there's a misconception about how easy it is to bring a corruption case and how easy it is to bring a racketeering case. So while it's very easy to identify the perpetrators, and I think we now have a good money trail, it is still quite a complicated case to build and to prosecute.
Yeah. Paul, before we let you go, it was incredible to sit and listen to your testimony at the inquiry and to painstakingly try and follow this trail that you and your team have uncovered. Give us a sense of how you went about doing that. I mean, all of the information you've uncovered, or a lot of it, related to emails you were able to access?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it's very important to acknowledge this is a sort of a broader civil society media effort that all fed into this process. I mean, I very much came onto this story after units like Amabongani and News 24 had done their own investigative work and are sort of picking up from where they had left off. So there were two primary sources that we used. The one was the Gupta leaks themselves. And in the Gupta leaks, we have, a whole range of emails showing their involvement in the Estina enterprise, but also internal accounting ledgers, which allowed us to get sort of unparalleled access to understanding how they moved the money offshore and how it came back into South Africa. And the second set of documents was when the Asset Forfeit Unit originally tried to seize the funds in relation to Estina, they did put bank statements into the public domain. So we were able to look at those bank statements, work with some amazing financial experts from around the world as well in tracing these funds. And those are the two sort of primary sources. And it was very useful to go to the commission because where there were holes in my story, where there were gaps in the bank records, the commission was able to fill them. So all of those three things together, coming together, I think it produced a very powerful set of explanatory documents, and that I think will hopefully be used both by the commission but by a potential prosecution going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. That is most certainly the hope. Paul, thanks very much for your time this morning. Incredible work being done there. Paul Holden is Director Researcher at Shadow World Investigations. Some incredible testimony unfolding at the State Capture Inquiry over the period of days, just unpacking the Estina dairy farm project and how the entire thing was rigged to benefit particular people, including the Gupta family.